Hello, kind people. This is Dmitry, and welcome to the second installment of my little series of tribute videos to the world of advanced cryptics. In this video, I'm going to start my Greatest Hits of the Listener 2021 mini-series. As you can see, this whole project begins to grow uncontrollably, and there will probably be many detours in it. I'm not sure how I'm going to select my listener greatest hits. I tried to go through all the crosswords of 2021, starting from my first one, which was heavily featured in the previous video. So first of all, it means that I missed the first couple of months of 2021. And even though I might one day go back and solve those puzzles, I'm not going to do it in the immediate future. So it is a bit tricky to, select the best from 2021 when I have not even seen the whole of 2021. The other thing is that inevitably, all of the crosswords which I solved in the first year, and especially the first few, were so memorable because this was a completely new world to me. I didn't realize that, some clue gimmicks, such as, this misprint in the definition they repeat again and again, or that the wordplay can lead to an answer with an extra letter which is not entered in the grid, which is probably the single most used clue gimmick. But I knew nothing about that. So I just discovered new things every week and was completely fascinated by all this. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn to the official top 5, or as close to the official top 5 of the listener puzzles for 2021, that to guide me in my selection. And in order to do that, I need to say a few words about the listener website, and that will lead to a few more facts about the listener community. So let me show you the listener website. The listener website is an absolute wonder. So there it is. So first thing you notice when you look at the listener website is that it's an old-fashioned pure HTML website with none of this dynamic content nonsense that tells you that you must upgrade your Chrome browser today if you want to continue watching this website tomorrow. I think more websites should be like that. So what it does provide is a data on each puzzle, and that is something that is updated every week, so you can go to every puzzle and you could have a look at the notes, and those notes would explain all the clues pretty much in the same way like Times for the Times blog does, only this explanation is going to be a little bit encoded itself, but once you know how to read it, it's quite obvious. For example, this means that Neo Guy is an anagram of ailing. Oh, and it looks like I might have selected... No, it's not the one I was going to cover, but anyway, one other thing that is on the website, as you can see in one of the tabs, is dinners. Why on earth dinners? Well, as I said, the listener is an institution, and it is a community, and there is a Setter's dinner every March, and the more successful solvers are also invited to this dinner. And after that dinner, this pack of annual statistics is produced, the one I mentioned in the last video, and I'm going to show you how it looks in a second. So these are this is the information about the listener dinner, and if we go to the statistics, and if we go to the PDFs of each year, you could see that for every year, what is produced is a document which looks like this, which for every puzzle reports on how many entries were received, how many were correct and incorrect, what was the percentage of error, and so on. And the last column is the number of solvers this year who are still all correct after this puzzle. So as you could see, in 2020, by the time we got to the very last puzzle, we ended up with 18 people who successfully solved all of them. Now, and 3 unlucky ones were correct all the way up until the last puzzle and then tripped there. This particular bit of the website is not updated as frequently as the per week puzzle section, so the documents for 2021 dinner have not made their way to the website yet, but as I mentioned, they are received by every solver, should they want so, every March, and John Green sends them. So here I have this documents for 2021, and on the very last page here, so there are lots of amazing things here. So there is this wonderful triangular diagram which shows you that this number of solvers submitted this number of entries, and so you can see that 197, well, you probably can't see, but I can tell you that 197 solvers only submitted one listener and never bothered, of which 160 solved it correctly, but still didn't come back. So that's the bit that puzzles me a little bit. But then 2004 solvers, and the distribution on this axis is very much a bimodal one, so people either try to submit everything or they dip their toe and never come back. So 204 solvers submitted all 52, and of them 38 were correct. So in 2021 there were 38 all correct solvers compared to 18 in the previous year. So that may have been a little bit a lighter year, but of course it only requires one completely fiendish difficult puzzle to ruin the all correct year. And on the very last page you have an information from the listener dinner, and what you have here is the prize giving section, and the all correct solvers, so those 38 who managed the all correct run, they vote for the best puzzle. And so the top 5 puzzles for the Ascot Gold Cup, based on recommendations from the all correct solvers, were, and hopefully you can see that, Dice Nets by Arden, Hungry by Android, Variety Show by Enigmatist, Elusive Figures by Poet, and Manhunt by Shark. So I'm going to actually use this list for my greatest hits of 2021 series of videos. I'm going to ignore Dice Nets because Dice Nets is a mathematical puzzle, and those deserve the separate videos, a separate video on them, which I might record one day if I feel like it. And I'm going to go through them, I guess, in chronological order. So the first one that appeared is Hungry by Android. So at this point I might go back to the listener website and show you another thing that is there. So what you can see on the listener website is there is a setters tab, and here you could go to letter A and find Android there. And as you can see, Android is a pseudonym for Andrew MacLeod, and that's actually his first ever listener. So what a debut that was, sort of propelling him immediately to the listener setters elite and making the top 5 puzzles of the year. So let's have a look at that one. Let me try and open it. So there it is. The listener number 4662, Hungry by Android. So let's read the preamble. I must admit that there's going to be an interesting natural connection with the listener discussed in the previous video with Not One by Nud. Some of the clue gimmicks are going to be exactly the same, and the theme, well, you will see what's common about the theme. Okay, so the preamble is a bit longer than last time. In 36 clues, the definition has a letter wrong. Corrections spell out a literary request and a sensible answer. So this is the same clue gimmick as the one we've seen last time, right? So there are misprints in the definition. It is not that common a gimmick in a sense that, you don't see it every week, and you shouldn't deduce from here that this is going to happen every week in the listener, and you'll see it in the other top five crosswords. In 17 other clues, here is another gimmick. The wordplay leads to the grid entry, which is the answer jumbled. So, as you know, because I assume that you know how cryptic crosswords work, each cryptic clue has a definition part and a wordplay part. Unless they are cryptic definitions, but as you clearly see in these clues, they are going to be properly structured into a definition and a wordplay. And the wordplay is not going to lead to the answer, but instead it's going to lead to the jumble of the answer, so the anagram of the answer. And that is what you need to enter into the grid. From the remaining clues, so presumably that means there are 54 clues in the puzzle, a string of letters must be removed before solving, and that string of letters is a jumble of the actual response that must be written below the grid. So as you can see, there is here a response written below the grid, and you need to fill this space after it. The writer's surname and 3 adjectives from the line before the request outline a 29-cell shape representing the titular character, tracing each word in cells with touching sides or corners. Solvers must move the character to their final resting place, leaving blank cells and overwriting others. Then highlight the resting place and the character. Ignoring spaces, the final grid only contains real words and phrases, and then there is a standard thing that you'll see in every single listener. The Chambers Dictionary is the primary reference. However, one final entry is not in Chambers, and it's in Collins English Dictionary. Okay, so most of the preamble, you don't really know what this is about. So you know that there is some writer's surname and appearing somehow, so presumably it is about some literary work. So you start solving the clues, and you try to understand that there are 2 types of them, apart from that one single one with some string of letters that must be removed. So if you, by solving the clue, you realize that there is a misprint in the definition, that means that you can enter the answer for this clue into the grid straight away. If, however, there is no misprint in the definition, then the wordplay will lead not to the answer but to a jumble of an answer, and that is the grid entry. So let's have a look at some intermediate stage in solving the puzzle. So this is what happened halfway through, or slightly more than halfway through. So let me try and maybe have a look at some of the clues. Okay, let's have a look at one across. Witness short roguish hunk. So this is the example of the first type of the clue, and here's how it works. So to witness something is to see something. When you take this witness short, that means that you cut it short, so you only take the first 2 letters of the 3, so you remove the last letter, and then roguish, so arch is roguish, and so the whole thing together is search, which is not hunk but hunt. So this is your first correction of the misprints in the definition. Let's have a look at the other clue type. So this 7 across provides something at the moment which is not a word, ear dams. And let's see how that appears and what the answer actually is. So this part here is the wordplay, and senior regularly in cryptic world often indicates that you need to take either odd or even letters, so EIR is senior regularly, and then checks is dams, and so ear dams is the wordplay, and that is the grid entry. And if you unjumble that, you could get sidearm. And sidearm, so the definition here is gun perhaps. And perhaps is here because sidearm is an arm which is worn on the side, and so a gun is an example of potential sidearm, but it could be something else, I guess a blade. So this is how these things work. So you start filling the grid, and you get and you can see there is a message that starts to appear in the clues. So tell me what thy lordly name is. And then something else which I have not... so a sensible answer, I think, is what is there. And I have not solved those clues by this point. Right, so I hope that this quotation is something more easily recognizable than the previous one. However, if it's not, let's try and open the browser and type it, tell me what thy lordly name, and Google readily suggests it. And if we go back to the browser now, we can see that it is from a rather famous poem, right? And this is, of course, is The Raven by Edgar Poe. And let's now go back to the preamble, and let's see what we need to do with the Raven. So the writer's surname and 3 adjectives from the line before the request outline a 29 cell shape representing the title of character. So as you can see here, in the very last row, we can see Poe. So let's have a look at the next stage when the grid is filled. So, and in the next stage, maybe I should go back to the poem first. So let's find this request in the poem. Okay, tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. And on the line just before it, you can see ghastly, grim, and ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore. So ghastly, grim, and ancient is something that we're interested in. And indeed, if you now look at the complete grid, you can see that you can read here, starting from this G, you can read ghastly, grim, and ancient. And so what you end up with is an outline of a bird, an outline of a raven. Oh yes, and then you might realize that the sensible answer is Corvus corax, which is the Latin for, I guess, for raven. the proper name in the nomenclature for birds, for ravens. Now, this is might also be the good time to understand how the final clue works, the one which has the string of letters removed before solving. So that turned out to be the last of the crosses. So small Vermeer not seen recently, finally repaired. And the way it works is you remove this string of letters, which readily anagrams to nevermore. And then you end up with T, with small t, and seen. Okay, so let's see what the answer is. T and C. Okay, so small here, I guess, is the definition, and then you get T, you get seen, and you take recently, finally, so you take the last letter of the word recently, and all that is repaired, that is anagrammed again, and you get T and C, which is small. So now we know what to write in this space, it's nevermore. And now comes the most beautiful part of all this. So solvers must move the character to their final resting place, leaving blank cells and overwriting others, then highlight the resting place and the character. Ignoring spaces, the final grid contains only real words and phrases. So what is this final resting place? For that we might go to the poem again. And, oops, wrong tab. And if we go to the poem again and we scroll all the way to the end, and the raven never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. Okay, so it looks like we need to find this in the grid. And if we now look at the grid again, we find out that here it is. So it looks like that we need to move this whole raven outline with everything that's inside on top of the word palace. And there's only one way to do it such that the raven fits in the grid, because as you can see it has quite a long tail. And so if you do that, this is the transformation that happens. So the raven jumps there, and magically all those things that were jumbled now become real words. So this ear dams now become air dams, and that is the word in Chambers. Well, one of them is in Collins, I can't remember which one. What are the other things that we had there? Underlap, which was a word, now becomes undergod, which is still a word. This iterangurdi, which was clearly not a word, now becomes iterances, which is a word, and so on. And this is absolutely magical. Moreover, some things that were not a word in the part of the grid which the raven silhouette occupied prior to the move, some non-words become words now there. So for example, this day 10, that was not a word, I can't remember what it was a jumble of, but now it is this, which is a word. And now we have real words everywhere in the grid if you read across those empty spaces. And this is unbelievably beautiful, and when this puzzle appeared I was sure that it would be a strong contender for Puzzle of the Year, and I'm very happy that it did feature in top 5. Again, I think this video was long enough, so I'm not going to try to attempt any other puzzles in it, but stay tuned for so the next one in chronological order is Elusive Figures by Poet, which is probably one of my favorite puzzles of 2021 for some personal reasons, which are going to be clear from the next video. So thank you for watching. Bye.